Okay, let's welcome our players onto the Andy Murray Arena for our first match of the day. On debut here at the HSBC Championships from the Philippines, please give a very warm welcome to Alexandra Eala. It's now time for our sixth seed here this week, also on debut here at the HSBC Championships. It's the world number 19 from the USA, Iva Jovic.
Can a dream be shattered in less than an hour on the hallowed grass courts of London? For a nation watching with bated breath, the answers came cruel, swift, and absolute as a rising star collided with an unstoppable force. It was supposed to be a historic redemption story, a triumphant moment of sweet revenge under the gray British skies. Instead, it became a devastating masterclass in heartbreak that left millions in utter silence. The ultimate question now hangs over a shattered court, forcing a rising star to confront the brutal realities of elite competition. The iconic lawns of London have always been a theater of grand illusions and brutal realities, where the margin between glory and despair is as thin as a chalk line. Alexandra Eala stepped onto the pristine grass with the weight of an entire country resting heavily on her shoulders. She arrived in the British capital, riding an incredible wave of momentum, radiating the supreme confidence of a newly crowned champion. Just days prior, she had conquered the courts of Birmingham, lifting a prestigious trophy that felt like a definitive announcement to the tennis world that her time had truly come. Her grass court campaign was supposed to be a victory march, an undeniable showcase of her evolving brilliance and tactical maturity on a surface that punishes even the slightest hesitation. Every strike of her racket in practice sessions whispered of a breakthrough, and the global tennis community was beginning to take notice of the young prodigy from Manila who refused to be intimidated by the grand stages of Europe. When she stepped out for her main draw debut at the championships, it looked as though nothing could stand in her way. Facing off against the deeply experienced veteran Zhang Shuai, Eala overcame an early multi-game deficit with the poise of a seasoned veteran. She adjusted her angles perfectly, pouncing on her opponent's errors and wrapping up an emphatic straight sets victory that sent shockwaves of excitement through her fan base. It was a flawless display of hard-hitting tennis that booked her a highly anticipated spot in the round of 16. The narrative seemed perfectly aligned for an epic run, a golden opportunity to prove that she belonged among the elite competitors of the modern game. The crowd cheered her name, the media praised her resilience, and the path forward seemed illuminated by the bright lights of destiny. But professional sports have a uniquely cruel way of introducing a terrifying plot twist just when an athlete feels completely untouchable. Lurking quietly in the draw was a familiar nemesis, a player who had recently become an agonizing hurdle in Eala's professional career. Only 15 days earlier, amidst the red clay dust of Paris, Eala's Grand Slam dreams had been ruthlessly cut short in the very first round. The author of that devastating heartbreak was none other than Iva Jovic, a phenomenal American prodigy whose relentless rise through the global rankings was capturing the attention of every major analyst in the sport. To make matters even more complicated, Jovic was not just an ordinary rival on the opposite side of the net. She was a close personal friend and a former doubles partner, someone who understood the intricate mechanics of Eala's game down to the finest detail. This round of 16 clash in London was billed as the ultimate match of redemption, a cinematic chance for Eala to erase the painful memories of Paris and exact sweet revenge on a surface that theoretically favored her aggressive style. The anticipation surrounding the arena was palpable, as fans expected a fierce, multi-hour war of attrition between two of the brightest young talents on the global tour. Everyone believed that the transition from the slow, grinding clay of France to the lightning-fast, low-bouncing grass of England would completely flip the script in Eala's favor. It was supposed to be the moment where the hunter became the hunted, where adjustments would be made, and where a fierce competitive spirit would level the playing field once and for all. Instead, what unfolded on the court was a brutal, systematic dismantling that caught everyone completely off guard. From the very first serve, Iva Jovic looked like an absolute machine, operating with a level of clinical precision that left no room for sentimentality or friendship. The American opponent stepped onto the grass with an aggressive intent that immediately pushed Eala deep onto her heels. Jovic's ball striking was nothing short of majestic, finding the absolute corners of the court with a flat, piercing trajectory that negated any tactical adjustments Eala tried to employ. The opening games of the first set flew by in a blur of powerful baseline exchanges, but every time the rallies extended past 5 shots, it was Jovic who dictated the terms of engagement with unflinching authority. You could see the immediate tactical dilemma unfolding on Eala's face as her trusted weapons began to fail her one by one. The spectacular forehand that had served her so well during her title run in Birmingham was suddenly finding the net or flying just long, hurried by the sheer depth and pace of Jovic's returns. The American prodigy was reading Eala's service patterns with uncanny ease, stepping inside the baseline to punish second serves and immediately putting the Filipina star under immense defensive pressure. It was a suffocating display of tactical dominance that quickly translated into a double break lead for the American. Eala fought valiantly, trying to vary her depth and look for creative angles, but Jovic's lateral movement on the slick grass was immaculate, allowing her to neutralize offensive shots and turn defense into offense in the blink of an eye. The first set concluded with a resounding 6-2 scoreline in favor of Jovic, a sobering wake-up call that completely silenced the passionate crowd hoping for a competitive battle. As Eala sat at her changeover chair, staring blankly at the grass, the psychological toll of the match was visibly evident. Tennis is a lonely sport, and when an opponent has your number so completely, the court can begin to feel like an inescapable island.
Taking full advantage, and Alexandra Eala, just as she did so on the Parisian clay a few weeks ago, well, she now does so on the English grass here at Queen's Club. A scary talent at just 18 years of age.
Iva, first of all, welcome to the HSBC Championships and congratulations on that victory. It looked like a pretty solid win. How would you rate it?
I think it was a good win. Alex is a great player, and I think she loves the grass, having won a title last week, so it was super tough, and I think I just hung in there on those close games and was able to distance myself just enough, but definitely scoreline doesn't show how tough it was.
Yes, you two are friendly as well. You can see from the embrace there at the net, and also you played at Roland Garros a couple of weeks ago as well. 18 and 21, how nice is it to play alongside some of your good friends?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's more fun playing doubles with her than being on the other side of the net. So unfortunately, we have to play in the early rounds, but hopefully we play some finals soon enough. And yeah, she's a great friend of mine and grateful for her. And thank you everyone for coming out. It's wonderful to have you guys here.
The technical data from that first set painted a bleak picture, showing that Jovic was winning an astronomical percentage of her first serve points while completely locking down her own service games. Eala was forced to expend massive amounts of energy just to hold her own serve, leaving her completely depleted when it came time to mount a return strategy. As the second set commenced, there was a desperate hope among onlookers that Eala could channel the inner resilience that has defined her young career and spark a legendary comeback. She attempted to adjust her positioning, trying to take the ball earlier and inject more risk into her ground strokes to disrupt Jovic's rhythmic perfection. For a brief moment, a glimmer of hope appeared as Eala hit a spectacular running passing shot down the line, a reminder of the undeniable talent that has made her a national icon. But every time Eala showed a spark of a resurgence, Jovic responded with the cold, unfeeling execution of an elite competitor, firing brilliant aces and painting the lines with devastating accuracy. The narrative of the second set mirrored the tragic trajectory of the first with agonizing accuracy. Jovic's broke serve early once again, completely crushing any psychological momentum Eala was desperately trying to build. The friendship between the two players vanished entirely beneath the fierce fire of competition, as Jovic refused to take her foot off the gas pedal for even a single point. It became painfully clear that these two athletes, despite their similar ages and shared history, were operating on completely different tactical wavelengths on this particular day. Jovic's composure under pressure was staggering, saving the few breakpoints Eala managed to generate with unreturnable serves that left the Filipina star shaking her head in disbelief. As the match raced toward its inevitable conclusion, the atmosphere around the stadium transformed into a somber reflection on what could have been. The scoreline repeated itself with cruel symmetry, another definitive 6-2 victory in the second set that sealed the match for the American in just over an hour. It was a performance that was even more dominant and comprehensive than their encounter in Paris, leaving no doubt as to who was the superior player on the court. For Eala, the defeat was an incredibly bitter pill to swallow, an emotional crash from the dizzying highs of her recent championship success to the absolute ground reality of elite professional tennis. When the final ball sailed long, signaling the end of the encounter, the post-match handshake at the net was a quiet, understated moment between two friends who had just lived through two completely different realities. Jovic celebrated her well-deserved spot in the quarterfinals with a respectful wave to the crowd, while Eala packed her bags in the background, a lonely figure contemplating a heartbreaking exit from a tournament that promised so much. The immediate discourse surrounding the loss has been intensely critical, with some questioning her tactical adaptability against top-tier opponents who possess elite power. Yet, true greatness is never built on an unbroken string of victories, but on the profound lessons learned in the darkest moments of defeat. Alexandra Eala's journey on the international stage is far from over, and this painful London setback will undoubtedly serve as the fuel for her next great evolution. The road to the top is paved with heartbreaks like this, and the tennis world will be watching closely to see how she responds when she steps back onto the court for her next major challenge. The aftermath of such a comprehensive defeat often forces a player to confront uncomfortable truths about their technical foundation. Analysts point out that while Eala possesses world-class baseline aggression, her movement on grass still requires significant refinement to handle opponents who flatten out their shots. On grass, low-skidding balls require a player to stay incredibly low, maintaining a stable base while transitioning from defense to offense. Throughout the match, Jovic systematically exposed Eala's slight hesitation in her footwork, forcing her into rush striking positions that led to a high unforced error count. This technical vulnerability is not an indictment of her talent, but rather a standard developmental hurdle for a young player transitioning full-time to the grueling senior circuit where flaws are instantly magnified and exploited by elite opponents. Beyond the technical adjustments, the mental recovery from consecutive losses to the same rival is perhaps the greatest test Eala now faces. Losing to a peer can create a psychological block that hardens with each subsequent defeat, making future encounters even more daunting. However, history is filled with legendary champions who suffered early career lopsided rivalries only to completely reverse the dynamic through sheer persistence and strategic evolution. Eala has repeatedly demonstrated a rare emotional maturity, and those closest to her camp insist that she views these setbacks not as definitive failures, but as essential data points for her long-term development. The disappointment felt across her homeland is merely a reflection of the immense belief the nation has in her potential, a belief that remains completely unshaken despite the sting of this London exit. Looking ahead, the hardcourt season offers a welcome shift in conditions where Eala's natural rhythm and heavy topspin can be utilized to maximum effect. The grueling European grass swing is a unique and brief chapter in the tennis calendar, punishing those who lack specialized experience on the surface. With the grass court season now behind her, she can refocus her training on the high-bouncing hard courts where she has historically found comfort and immense success. As the tour moves toward North America, the lessons learned under the gray skies of London will undoubtedly be integrated into her tactical playbook. The journey of a professional tennis player is a marathon, not a sprint, and this heartbreaking defeat may very well be remembered as the exact catalyst that propelled Alexandra Eala to the next tier of global tennis excellence. The path to the pinnacle of professional tennis is rarely a straight line, and the setbacks often define a champion far more than their easiest victories. For Alexandra Eala, this modern rivalry with Iva Jovic is becoming the defining storyline of her current developmental phase. Every great player needs an opponent who forces them to look into the mirror and reevaluate their entire tactical approach. Jovic has provided that exact mirror, exposing the gaps that exist between being a dominant force on the junior circuit and becoming an unstoppable presence on the women's professional tour. The adjustments required are substantial, involving not just physical adjustments to the speed of the modern game, but a complete overhaul of how she manages the emotional swings of a high-stakes match when things begin to fall apart. As the tennis world shifts its focus to the upcoming tournaments, the conversation around Eala's potential remains highly optimistic among seasoned coaches and scouts. They recognize that at her young age, experiencing these severe tactical tests is an absolute blessing in disguise. It prevents complacency and provides a clear, undeniable blueprint of what needs to be improved in the practice sessions ahead. Her coaching staff will undoubtedly focus on increasing her first serve percentage and developing a more reliable defensive slice to neutralize heavy baseline hitters. If she can successfully integrate these elements into her repertoire over the coming months, the version of Alexandra Eala that steps onto the hard courts later this year will be far more dangerous, versatile, and resilient than ever before. Ultimately, the match in London was a stark reminder that success in elite sports is never guaranteed regardless of past achievements or current momentum. It showed that every tournament is a brand new ecosystem with its own unique demands and pressures. While the immediate feeling is one of profound disappointment for Eala and her millions of supporters, the broader perspective reveals a young athlete who is actively paying her dues on the global stage. The heartbreak of today is simply the foundation for the triumph of tomorrow, and true tennis enthusiasts know that this chapter is merely the dramatic setup for an incredible comeback story that is still being written. Alexandra Eala has the talent, the work ethic, and the national backing to overcome this hurdle, and her eventual rise to the top will be all the sweeter because of the trials she endured along the way.